Welcome to Growth Marketer Academy with Ryan and Andrea Eldridge. When you sell a product or service, reviews can be a love-hate kind of thing.
And if you have a loyal and vocal customer base that's gifted you with glowing reviews, they are great.
But if you're new without reviews, or worse yet, if you've had some unfortunate experiences with particularly vocal, grumpy customers, reviews can be the bane of your digital existence.
Good news! You can increase your positive reviews without farming or participating in shady deals on Fiverr.
What? What do you?
Fiverr's where you would go to buy shady freaking reviews.
Reviews can be the bane of your digital existence.
Good news, you can increase your positive reviews without farming or participating in shady deals.
And then those great reviews will help you dominate local search results.
This is Ryan Eldridge.
And this is Andrea Eldridge.
Welcome to Growth Marketer Academy.
This is episode 18 of the Growth Marketer Academy podcast.
I'm Ryan Eldridge, Chief Strategist at Squirrel Digital Marketing.
And this is Andrea Eldridge, Creative Director at Squirrel Digital Marketing.
Online reviews have become hugely important to growing your business. Even if you don't actively pursue them, they're going to find you.
A lot of small business owners in particular find them terrifying. A few vocal customers with a bad experience, and it can feel like an insurmountable mountain to dig out from under.
That's why the key to reviews is to encourage happy customers to leave one while giving unhappy customers a more useful alternative than leaving a scathing review.
It's true. Although I do have to give a side note here because when I do the lead-in for this podcast in general, and I get to that point where it is, use reviews to dominate local search results, I always feel like I'm the brain from Pinky and the Brain, like from Animaniacs. I'm sure that's probably aging me. When I say dominate, it's like, what do you want to do tonight, brain? The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world. So anyway, just kind of my little... I still love that show. So maybe I shouldn't say dominate anymore because I just can't get the song out of my head.
Well, and you do a wonderful rendition of the state song from Animaniacs.
I do, but we're not going to do that today. No. So yeah. Bloopers reel. No, just kidding. I'm not going to do it live. Anyway, so reviews. Everyone's doing it. It's true.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
All right. So consider your last purchase. Did you start with Google or Yelp and look for suggestions? Of course you did. Everybody does that. I mean, nobody just goes out and randomly is like, I don't know, who do I want to go to search for? I'm just never have done this before. I'm just going to choose this random name because it sounds cool.
Like we travel a lot. And so when we're in Portland and we're looking for a place to eat, or we're in San Francisco or some other, cool city, we're like, well, where should we go to eat? We were just in Vegas a couple of days ago and the same thing. So first place we went, Yelp. Yelp is a great place for restaurants, and looking for reviews is the first thing we're looking at. Who cares what the name is or whatever else? We want to know what other people are experiencing when they're there.
Well, and you do it when you travel and you're going to, pick out a hotel, or if you're looking to shop online, you look for product reviews, and you are ultimately trying to gain trust in a service or a product provider that you're otherwise unfamiliar with. And user reviews are the primary way that we've grown accustomed to doing that research process. So customer reviews probably played a pretty big role in your research phase for anything that you've recently purchased.
Yeah.
Lots of high-rated reviews basically will cause customers to select you over competitors, but even cooler, it actually makes Google rank you higher in local searches.
Yeah, reviews increase your exposure, and that gives you more leads and more footfalls to your business.
Yep. So how do you develop an online reputation? Online reviews are basically any comment about your business, product, or service by individuals that don't have an association with you. So it's not like a sponsored review, not something where you would be, saying this famous person said this wonderful thing about me. That's not quite the same. It's more of like an unsolicited
that would be
expectation.
An endorsement.
Yes.
Like you get Joe DiMaggio. Well, not Joe DiMaggio because he's not with us, but Joe Namath maybe. Yeah. He's some famous sports guy that says this is the greatest plumbing business in the world. Then you're like, oh, if Joe loves them, then I love them too.
I think that people put more weight these days on user reviews because it seems more like the average schmo, and you have actually gotten a little bit untrusting of endorsed reviews because you're like, yeah, anybody's going to say anything if they pay you for it.
Yeah.
So user reviews that can be seen and read as genuinely unsolicited are really valuable from a standpoint of social proof.
I know that happens a lot with movies. If you're using a movie app and you're looking at reviews, you'll see the critic reviews, but then you're like, yeah, but this guy's seeing the movie on a whole different level than I'm seeing. What does the average Joe on the street think of the new movie? And you'll kind of like, oh, okay, well, this
and
guy.
And then you read those and realize, oh my gosh, I don't really want to watch the same Joe. Yeah, at least for movies. So, it's interesting to note that people are typically looking at reviews at the end of their purchase cycle. They've made a specific decision that they're looking for something in particular, like I'm in the mood for Italian food. And so you're going to probably go to Yelp for suggestions for an Italian dinner. It's interesting, actually, the sheer volume of people that use reviews for this purpose these days. According to a study by Bright Local, 85% of consumers read online reviews before making a purchase decision. And I mean, that's pretty huge.
But do reviews actually impact the final decision, or are you just kind of like, oh, it's some light reading?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, just because people look at them, does it really sway them one way or the other? Well, Dimensional Research looked into it and found that 90% of respondents claimed that reviews did influence their purchasing decision.
I know when I look at reviews, like if I'm buying something from Amazon, the first thing I do is I look for the worst reviews.
Yeah.
Like I'll sort by the worst.
Because you're a pessimist.
Well, because if I can put up with the one thing that these people are complaining about, like it felt plasticky and small, then I'm like, oh, I like plasticky and small. So F that guy, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, it's true. I think just looking at the general modulated common number, it doesn't tell me the full story either. And I will look to those bad reviews to say, okay, so were the bad reviewers basically having these completely unrealistic expectations? And I'm like, okay, then
Plus they're the most entertaining because they're all flipping out about crazy things, and you could just kind of laugh at them, going, seriously, lady, you're freaking out about the fact that your food took an extra 2 minutes.
Or the ones I love are like, I went into the Irish bar on St. Patrick's Day and I had to wait 30 minutes for my beer. It was ridiculous. 0 stars.
And it was
if
green.
I could make it negative, I would make it negative. It's like, wow, homie, get some reality. But anyway, and on average, an individual reads at least 6 reviews before forming an opinion. So it's not all about just 1 or 2. It's kind of, they will peruse through several to really kind of get a more valuable framed reference to the common user experience.
And I think in today's online world, we're a little suspect of reviews anyway. Good ones, bad ones, whatever. We're always kind of looking at them like, well, did the business hire somebody to write that? Or
is that his neighbor Jim?
Or did a competitor write that? I mean, we're always kind of looking at them with a little bit of a magnifying glass to make sure that they're
And we
trustworthy.
should be, because they aren't always so. And some people don't necessarily employ the most upstanding policies when it comes to reviews. So we won't be covering those tactics today, but we will be talking about how to encourage positive reviews legally. I don't know. It's not necessarily a legal issue as much as just ethically.
Well, actually, technically, there was a legal issue. Yelp and the state of New York sued I think it was an auto mechanic who was posting fake reviews on his Yelp page, and they sued him because it's false advertising. You can't do that. You're literally misleading the public. And he got sued for all kinds of stuff. And then Yelp, if they catch you or suspect you, they'll put a banner up on your page that says, we suspect this business of inflating their reviews. So just beware.
Yeah. And, it's interesting, too. I don't think this trend is going anywhere. We have a graph in the show notes that reviews the number of online reviews the average consumer reads prior to making an opinion about a business. And it looks at 2011, 12, and 13. And you can just see this increase in number for, as the years go on. More and more people are using this platform. Basically, your online reputation is a summary of your online reviews. Positive reviews may sway users towards your business, but it takes it takes only a few bad reviews to permanently stain your image.
So, for example, if people are complaining about the poor quality food or slow service at your restaurant, most people will start avoiding your business.
Yeah. So let's talk for a minute about how reviews impact local SEO, because it's more than just customers searching for you. It's also about how Google frames your company.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to Google, it's still sort of a mystery exactly what their algorithm is in order to rank you. But we did a few searches and did some research, and we found that Google certainly takes into account your reviews and your experience in putting you where you're going to be put in, say, the local pack on the Google Maps selection when you do a search for a local business.
Well, and I think that it comes down to Google's intent. I mean, Google's intent is to give searchers the best experience possible. And so if you have a business that has a strong consumer basis of, positive reviews, then Google looks at that and says, well, everybody else seems to like them, and so they probably are a good fit for me to put higher up for that next consumer that comes along. They're likely going to be happy with the experience that Google gave them.
Because if I type in, plumbers in San Francisco and I see nothing but, little dudes with no reviews or 1 or 2 reviews or bad reviews, that's not a good user experience for me. I'm automatically going to go to a different platform to search for plumbers because I'm not going to find Google has really got good information. But if they pull up, 5 or 6 plumbers and they all have hundreds of reviews and they're all 5 stars, I'm going to stay on that platform and I'm not going to leave. So that's for Google's intent.
So basically, the more people talk about your business, the higher you rank in this local search results. And so let's say, for example, you're going to search for a lawyer. Let's say, for example, you're searching for a lawyer in Denver. A sample Google search result is going to show you basically a map with little red dots and the first, 3 or 4 listings. You can extend it past then, but those first 3 or 4 listings are basically going to be geographically targeted responses that fit your search inquiry that are as highly reviewed as Google can track down.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, we just did a segment for Fox about this, and Google's kind of going under fire right now because they put that map results right there, and they're only querying Google products, Google brands, the Google My Business pages. They're not querying things like TripAdvisor, Expedia, or Yelp or anything like that. So there's been sort of some controversy. So this may not last forever, but for right now, Google is certainly using their own platform and the reviews on that platform to decide where you're going to rank in that 3-pack or 7-pack, depending on what you see when you're doing your search.
I don't know. I mean, I know it's off topic, but as a consumer, I would hope that it would retain some sort of control and autonomy over deciding which review sources that it should trust because, it has more power and control over what happens with the reviews posted on a Google My Business listing than it does over something Yelp has deemed to be, valuable, or TripAdvisor or such forth.
Yeah, but Yelp's algorithm for weeding out fake or poor quality reviews, is actually better than Google's. Google will take anything. There's no real algorithm sussing out the poor reviews or poor quality reviews or reviews that seem fake. You can post anything you want on Google, and Google's like, yeah, it's fine, we'll put it up there. And so it's a little easier to game, which makes it a little bit of a cheat. And on the other hand, you've got these other companies, these well-established companies that also are getting reviews. So there's a browser plugin you can download called, I think it's called Free the User, or I can't remember. Hold on. So there's a browser plugin you can get for Chrome called Focus on the User, and what that'll do is replace Google's only results with a mixed bag of results from Yelp, TripAdvisor, Expedia. Depending on where you're searching, they'll put a bunch of different review sites up against each other and give you the best results from all of them.
I see. Okay.
So anyway, if you're shopping.
Yes. So basically what we keep referring to as the Google search results here is also known as the 3-pack. It's going to get you really the bulk of your click-throughs from organic search. So businesses that are in the 3-pack feature above organic rankings, and so they get a bulk of click-throughs and the majority of foot traffic generated by online search.
Yeah, and also if you're also an AdWords advertiser and you've got a Google My Business page and it's highly rated, you're more likely to be the top of that 3-pack because it'll show as an ad as well as your normal ad in the normal spot. So you can get kind of like extra boosts if you've got a good reputation and you're an advertiser.
And ultimately, so as we've continued to mention, these reviews affect how your business will appear in that 3-pack. They're also social proof that people like or don't like your brand. And so basically, Google filters out businesses that it feels could damage its own reputation. So if you've optimized for local SEO factors like local citations and social signals, but you don't have very many reviews, Google's probably still not going to rank you or show you in that 3-pack.
So both quantity and quality of reviews matter. So for an example, and we'll put some stuff in the show notes. For an example, let's say that you've got a business that has a 3-star rating, but with 500 plus reviews, right? That sounds pretty good. I mean, in terms of your quantity, but quality's not so good, 3 stars. And put that up against a company that has 4.5 stars, but only 300 reviews. Well, Google is going to rank that second company a little bit higher because it's got higher rankings, even though it's got a little bit less in the review section.
And while we didn't put it in the show notes, I think it'd be fair to say that if you were, say, a 5-star company, but you had 4 reviews, you're not going to rank above that 4.5-star company with 300 reviews because, again, with that just small volume of reviews, there's less trustworthy nature that the vast majority of the populace agrees with that assessment. All right, so let's talk about the path to acquiring awesome reviews because that's what we all want. How can you get more people to leave a review for your business and, more importantly, without breaking Google's guidelines?
So first, you want to be proactive. You want to consistently remind people to review you. And so we've got a few tips on how you can kind of nudge people in the right direction without actually breaking any rules.
So this actually comes down to 3 steps. And step 1 is establish a presence.
So first thing you need to do is open up a profile on each of the websites where you're going to be getting reviews, right? So places like Google Plus or Google My Business, Amazon, Yelp, Facebook, TripAdvisor, just everywhere you could possibly think of that people are going to leave a review for you. Even yellowpages.com. I'm sorry. But yes, even there. And Foursquare is still a thing. There's a huge list of places. If you just type in just about any business and type in reviews after the name, you'll usually come up with quite a few.
Ideally, if you want to kind of hone in on those that are popular in your industry, I think that's a good place to focus your attention on, at least, because ultimately search as though you were searching for your own business, but for a competitor, and see where reviews are posted and make sure you have a presence on those sites.
Especially on places where your competitors already are, because that means that they're establishing a reputation there. And of course, you want your choice to be the only choice.
So we gave an example in the show notes of doing this sort of thing. Like, let's say you're an Italian restaurant in San Francisco. You put into Google Italian restaurant in San Francisco and see which review sites feature most prominently. In this case, it's going to be Yelp and TripAdvisor. It may not be the same for your industry.
So for an example, those who are looking for a restaurant may start on Yelp. Travelers who are typically looking for travel advice or good deals, they might go to TripAdvisor or Expedia. Online shoppers might head on over to Amazon, or people that are searching for a specific service provider might rely on Google. Interesting fact, here's something you don't know. Look at this. I'm going to throw this at you. Do you know that Facebook is now set up in their marketplace a place for local service providers now? So Amazon's been doing this for a little while. So if you're a plumber, an HVAC, you just do home services type stuff. You can put your profile up on Amazon and people can hire you direct from Amazon. But now Facebook's getting into this game too, which is kind of interesting. So Facebook Marketplace, if you're an HVAC or a plumber or hey, computer repair, you might throw up a profile on there in order for people to hire you. Kind of interesting, huh? So Facebook has become more important in terms of reviews than it was 3 days ago. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because, as more and more, and we'll talk about social media in a few moments here, but more and more consumers are getting used to using Facebook and social media to decide on service providers and really engage with brands. And so having reviews through Facebook is going to become a more and more important presence as well in terms of your consumer making decisions about your company.
Yeah, and Facebook had said the reason why they were doing it was because they had found more people were going online on Facebook saying, hey, does anybody recommend a blah? And Facebook says, hey, well, we want people to stay on our platform, so let's just start answering that question for people. And so you can see other people that have used these services and then reviews from them. And you can decide, hey, that's a cool plumber.
Yeah, it's true. In fact, I see that a lot in my feed where, and it phrases it in a very specific way, asking for a recommendation. So even Facebook is really focused on those review-related business pages that they'll link to when in that thread someone mentions a business, it'll automatically link you to their Facebook page.
Yeah. So essentially what you want to do is set up your business profile on the website or the review site that you're interested in that's good for your industry, like Yelp or Expedia, like we just said. And then you want to take a note of when you click on review this business or whatever, you want to take a note of what that link is that's being used to direct that person directly to leave a review for you, right?
Okay.
From there, it's just as simple as when you are wanting people to review you, putting that link in, giving people the ability to use that link to go to that site directly and post that review.
Oh, okay. I see. So you're just basically making a note of it now to use in future promotion.
Because again, if you're a small business, let's say you're a hairdresser and you're saying, hey, just go to Yelp and review me. They're going to be like, well, I mean, that's kind of hard, right?
I got to track you down.
I got to look up the business. What if there's two businesses that are similar? And by the time I'm 3 minutes into this, I'm like, this is lame.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing in it for me unless I absolutely love this business. So,
yeah.
But if you've got some small
I'm really, really cranky with this business, and then I'm motivated. So
then the world's coming to an end. But if you make it very easy for somebody who is slightly motivated and you just say, hey, here's a link to my review page, they can click it and go, oh, okay. And then they can just do it. Take away as many roadblocks as you can.
And if there's an option to verify your business at this stage, you're going to want to make sure and do that. You want to basically claim listings that are for your business so that you can moderate and control them as much as possible. Moz Local and White Spark can help you with this. And also make sure that your listings are up to date. You want to regularly confirm key information, things like location, phone number, hours of operation. It's basically, interestingly, it gives an added layer of trust to your business. If you say, I'm always open from 9 to 5, and then somebody tries to call you at 10:30 in the morning on a Saturday and you're not there, then they're like, okay, well, but you just said right there. And it causes them to be frustrated and potentially not believe some of the other information that you've posted.
Yeah. Most consumers don't realize how difficult it is to keep all of that information synced, right, across all of these different platforms. If you're suddenly going to have different hours for Memorial Day 1 year, you got to go through and update all of those profiles. Otherwise, that one person who gets it's going to be like, I called them and I'm going to leave a 1 star. I would leave a half a star if I could leave a half a star.
Because they didn't answer the phone.
They just don't care about business.
Yeah. And just keep in mind that inconsistent business information can seem shady to some potential customers.
Yeah.
Step 2. Ask politely for a review.
So what do you mean politely? I can't just go, hey, you son of a gun. Leave me a review.
Yeah, no.
No?
Don't recommend that. But, in truth, asking for a review can be really effective, and certainly more so than not asking at all and just hoping for the best.
But you have to be subtle. If you flat out ask someone to leave you a positive review, you could be breaking some rules.
It's true. You have to remain neutral, encourage people to leave an honest review.
So every major review site has strict rules about incentivizing reviews, and the consequences can be grave.
Yeah. Well, first off, you can expect your rankings to tank if it's discovered. All of your reviews, even the genuine ones, could be removed or permanently hidden. And as we mentioned before, you could even potentially face legal action. So it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, most sites that know when you solicit reviews, they know you're only soliciting the good ones. It's pretty rare that when you're soliciting reviews, you're like, hey, everybody, just tell me what you really think. They know that you only want on the positive ones.
And it seems it's something that I saw for a while there until it really became common knowledge that there were some negative consequences here. You'd see those restaurants, it was like, hey, leave us a 5-star review and we'll give you 10% off. You totally can't do that anymore.
And really, if you think about it, it's bad for everybody if you skew the results that way, because pretty soon, if you went to Yelp every time you were looking for an Italian restaurant in San Francisco and everything had 5 stars every time, you'd be like, okay, this is lame.
Yeah.
I don't trust this anymore, and you'd stop using the platform, and then Yelp goes out of business.
It's true. So how do you acquire positive reviews naturally? Well, first off, you want to start with your power players. This would be basically individuals who are likely to be getting the most value from your product or service. Repeat and loyal customers are a great place to start. People who are more likely to be committed and willing to put in a few extra seconds to actually leave a review about your brand. And so after you identify that target group, there's a few things you can try.
So first thing is email. It's very easy. Is just during a normal purchase process, ask the customers to provide you with their contact information, and then send them some sort of email that says, hey, how about a review? Now, if you're worried about incentivizing this, you can simply put it on the bottom of a receipt that says something like, hey, whatever. I've also seen stickers on doors that says people love us on Yelp or people love us on Foursquare. And that is also saying, hey, come give us a review, without saying, give me a review.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and you could also, for those that are interested enough in your product or brand to sign up for your discount club or loyalty community, those are a great group of people to send this sort of, hey, thanks for joining. find out what other happy customers have said and let us know about your experience, here. So
Yep. You can put it on your email signature every time you email a customer that just says at the bottom that says, hey, you leave us a review, and then put a couple of different sites on there. You can also put it on your web page, on your homepage, a couple of little icons from Yelp or Facebook or whatever, so people know how to get to that. And of course, that link, it takes them directly to your profile, directly to your review site.
Well, and I think part of the thought process, so if you're just basically going through your purchase process and you want to ask a customer to give you their email, it's one thing if you're an online retailer, that's pretty common. People are going to expect you to have to email them a receipt. But some local store brands go, well, wait a second, how could I get, they walked into my yogurt shop. How do I convince that person to give me their email address? And so that's really where our suggestion would be about, like, tie their email to some sort of loyalty plan that gets coupons or something. Give them some reason to give you their email address. If you do offer emailed receipts, you can offer that. And then once you collect this group of addresses from your existing customers, that's when you're going to basically send them in some way, for lack of a better word, some sort of solicitation to review your product or service. Honestly, I think it's more subtle if it's included in that thank you message that you get after purchase.
Yeah.
That basically is like, hey, or even in your welcome to the club email if you've set up some sort of loyalty club. And in that message, though, when you do, make sure that you make that link to follow to leave you a review as easy as possible, because you don't want, again, to make that customer jump through any more hoops. They're already doing you a favor, leaving a review at all. And there's nothing that they're getting out of it. And so just give them some sort of positive encouragement and make it as easy as possible.
So another way is social media. So we all know that our target customers are on social media. Even if we're selling, cat toys, there are customers on social media we need to connect with. And so many use social media in order to connect with brands they love. I mean, Coca-Cola has so many followers. It's ridiculous. And I mean, seriously, it's a soda brand. I mean, really, do you guys really need to know the status updates of Coca-Cola? But people do, in millions.
So, at this stage, you can basically just remind customers to check out your social presence. Put a reminder on your receipt. Include a link to your social media pages on your emails, and include your brand's Facebook address on your business cards. And this will basically encourage those who are using these platforms anyway, if they like you, to potentially find you online and connect with your brand, and give you another opportunity for you to use those platforms to garner reviews, either through politely phrased requests and suggestions of like, hey, if you love us, review us, or even just they're on the platform anyway. And, Facebook will actually encourage users to review businesses that have a Facebook business listing. So they do the work for you.
Yelp does the same thing. If you check into a business, a few days later, you'll get a thing, hey, you were just at such and such, to tell us how
Even Google's been doing that. Yeah. In fact, with their mapping program, if I go to a business using Google Maps, within a very brief time of it recognizing that I arrived, it'll be like, so what did you think? So it's all over the place. Yeah. There's other resources that are asking. So if you have the presence on those resource sites that allow them to link directly to an existing brand page, that website and forum is going to encourage its users to review.
And if a user is coming to your Facebook page and they see maybe in your news feed that says, hey, Janice just gave us another 5-star review. We really appreciate you, Janice. You're pretty wonderful. It gives them sort of that incentive, like, hey, yeah, I want to be part of that. I want to get that same kind of encouragement and pets.
That's
from
true.
this brand
I had a great
love.
experience too, and I really like the brand, and I want to tell them and have them be, see that I really liked it too.
Yeah.
Okay. A dedicated landing page is actually a huge piece of this process. So I know we kind of list it last, but it's really, really important. And this is coming down to what we've alluded to up until this point, which is how to encourage positive reviews without necessarily encouraging the negative reviews.
Well, and this is another way also to push down negative reviews in search. So let's say, for an example, you've got sort of a shady reputation. Maybe not shady, because if you got a shady reputation, just get out of business right now. But let's say you've just got a not so perfect reputation where people have said some bad things.
You've had some hiccups, you've had some bumps.
Yeah. And so when somebody searches your name, Bob's, cell phone repair or whatever, and they look, freaking A, I got 4 bad reviews, and it shows up in the top 10 search results. Well, most people, when they're going to search for reviews about your business, they're going to type in your brand name with the word reviews afterwards, right? And so what you want to do is create a landing page that is Google indexable that says something like Jim's phone repair service reviews. And that way on that page, you can then put positive reviews that are already there, so that'll help your search rankings. But you can also put on that page the links to the profile pages you want people to review you on. So from Facebook to Yellow Pages to Yelp to wherever you want them to go.
Gotcha. And basically, you want to promote this page. You want to promote it through flyers in your store, through social media community. Send customers to this page after service.
Build some local citation links to this page as well. That'll also push it up in the Google rankings, making it more obvious for people to see when they're searching for your business. So you might also get just unsolicited reviews as people are seeing the page.
And this brings us to that elephant in the room. What about the unhappy customers?
No, you don't have any unhappy
Of
customers. So
course not.
that's we're always perfect all the time.
Well, it's important to remember, customers that are unhappy tend to scream the loudest, which really sucks. So pointing those people directly to a public platform is not in your best interest.
Yeah, it can be super frustrating, especially if you weren't aware that the customer's unhappy in the first place, and they just took to the airwaves and started screaming bad things about you.
Yeah. So a landing page lets you triage for positive and negative reviews. So here's how. You have a dedicated review landing page that asks your customer to rank your product or service in a very simple way. So this isn't like 5 stars and then answer 3 triplicate multiple choice questions. No. We're looking for like thumbs up, thumbs down, smiley face, frowny face, like very minimal, like click one button. Hey, did everything go as you wanted it to go today? Click one thing. It's going to be very, very easy for that customer to answer that. And there's no immediate downfall.
Black and white.
I can't tell you how often I've actually really liked service with a customer and been like, oh yeah, I do want to say that I had a good experience there. And I will start their review process. And by the time I am 2 minutes in, I am like, screw this dude, I am done with you. And I'm just done. It's too exhausting and it's asking too much for my good experience. My good experience kind of gets negative. So make it really easy.
Plus, we just took an Uber or a Lyft, something like that, and the review thing comes up. Do you want to give this person 5 stars? And then the guy was okay. He wasn't a terrible driver. He didn't talk our ears off or smoke pot while he was driving. But
I've had some amazing Uber drivers, and if I had to rank it compared to a great experience, he was maybe a 3. Yeah. But he didn't run us off the road. I just, it was just
When he popped the trunk, we had to put our own bags in, so it wasn't a 5-star experience, but. Yeah. The way that that system is set up, if you give the guy a 3-star review, he's also giving you a 3-star review.
Yes.
And so now your writer score goes down, and then maybe you're not picked up at midnight so it's kind of a pain. So an up or down makes it black or white. Was it good or was it bad? And if you say it was good, then you're actually going to send those people off to the review page that you want them to review you on, right? So Facebook, Yelp, whatever. You want to give them multiple choices, allow them to go wherever they want to go to say whatever they want to say, right? Now, all you've done is said was a good experience or a bad experience.
Now, on the other side, if they say that they didn't have a good experience, then you still want to give them the opportunity of, in fact, encourage them to tell you what happened, but send them to a page that you control where they can leave feedback. So we posted a link or an image of the page that we use in one of our core brands to what we send people to if they have a not as great experience, where we ask them to really tell us what happened. It's in our best interest to know at this stage and have the opportunity to address it. Without that person getting sent off into the neithers without any idea of what to do to get it resolved.
Yeah, because a lot of times people will post something on an online site like TripAdvisor, and they'll say whatever they're going to say bad about the business, and that's it. That's where it ends. The business may never see that review, may never resolve that person's problem, unless they're really proactive and good at this. But most of those reviews are going to go unresolved.
So the customer's left unhappy, and now the business is also hurt as well. And so nobody gains from that experience.
So what you do is you send these negative slanting reviews to a private page where they can also give you 1 to 5 stars, give them the ability to title their review, so they can title it all funny and cute or whatever, or angry, like this company's a big scam, whatever.
Yeah.
And then give them space to just write whatever they want to write. And the reason you're doing this is once they click the submit button, instead of sending it off to some review site that you don't have any control over, instead send that review to your customer service team so you can actually solve this person's problem rather than just letting them go online and rant about it and not actually getting anything done.
Right. So if they did have a good experience and you send them to your positive page, so this basically, if you have clicked on the thumbs up or the happy face or whatever it is that you've used to gauge that they had a good experience, you're going to make it again super easy for them to just really quickly click and say, I want to review you here. I want to review you here. Or like, if you had a great experience, we're really glad and we love that, our customers love us. And so, would you be willing to share it? My suggestion here, I know you say give links to everything, but I think that can be overwhelming from a consumer. So I would say keep your listed options to maybe 2 on the page, but rotate them regularly because you want to diversify your review distribution. So, review us on Google or review us on Yelp. That's it. Or review us on TripAdvisor, review us on Google, or review us on whatever other website, you find that your audience tends to go to.
And you want to, again, keep in mind that if one of these review sites sees this kind of unusual traffic coming to their website, coming from your little review page, all of a sudden you're getting 500 positive reviews, you're going to get flagged. People are going to be like, okay, seriously, you're obviously gaming the system. Part of the reason why you're going to switch out those different options is so that way you can diversify it, but also so that way you're not sending all that traffic to one source and having them be all suspicious that you're gaming the system.
Step 3, respond to every review.
No. Just the good ones. I only respond to the good ones.
No.
Because the bad ones are bad. I don't want to reward them.
Especially the negative ones.
Oh, all right.
Yes. You really, really, really need to respond to those. And respond to all of them, but do not leave those negative reviews sitting out there to crickets. Just no, not a good idea.
So a lot of times what I'll actually see is people will respond to the negative ones, but they'll leave the positive ones, won't respond to them at all. And that's kind of bad form. So here's how I usually tell. We have a social media manager that handles all of our online reviews when one comes in. And the way that I explain it to her is this, is imagine you invited someone to your wedding, right? And they took all the time, they took time off of work, they rented a car, they drove all the way out to your stupid ranch where there's all these damn bugs, right? And then they spent all day
for a barbecue picnic when they're in really nice clothing.
Yeah. And so they did all of this sacrifice for you. Now they're in the line kind of greeting you as you're getting ready to head off into the sunset on your wonderful trip.
Yeah.
That they're not going on, right? And they stand there and they say, like, oh, thank you for inviting me to your wedding. And if you were to just be like, they'd be like, F this place, man. I'm not going to your second wedding, for one. So you want to give them a reciprocal amount of dedication. They just spent all of this time. So you want to say, thank you very much for coming to my wedding. God, I really appreciate it. You made it really wonderful for you to be here. And I just want to make sure that you know that I really appreciate you taking the time and energy to come to my wedding. Right?
Yes.
That is a positive, reciprocal, like, hey, dude, awesome. Rather than they just come and stand in line or whatever, and you're not doing any favors for nobody there, right?
And it's kind of similar to say, you kind of hinted on it there about this, the very standardized response is also really not great. And this is so hard for small businesses that ultimately don't have a lot of time to really go and craft these, well-documented responses to every review. But it's really, really important. And you just want to make sure that you don't disregard the time and effort that someone took into leaving that review. So we included an example in the show notes, actually a really good response from Hard Rock Cafe. It was interesting. They got a positive review and their store manager actually gave a short but personalized and really specific response, referred to something in her review and basically said, she mentions in the review how great of an experience she had with her server, Jessica. And so the business manager basically says, we've let Jessica know and she's really excited to get your review. So it doesn't have to be 7 paragraphs of glowing, to the 2-word review, but it does have to be non-robo response. So something that seems that you've actually read it and focused on it for 30 seconds, enough to be able to say, hey, thank you, John.
You want it to be personalized. You want it to be specific. You just don't want to come off uncaring and cold. And you just want to really show that you appreciate the person's feedback.
That's right. Remember, you aren't just talking to them. You're talking to the entire internet with this response, and they're all going to read what you say. So you want to make sure that you stand out with your response. That would be by saying thank you, for sure. Referencing something unique about the product or service they bought. Ideally, make a funny remark, something that shows that you have some personality to your brand.
Yeah, your goal is ultimately to just show that you're a real person, that you're not just some like, hey, thanks, go. Thanks. Whatever. That was cool.
Yeah.
Lame.
So what if in this case, the Hard Rock Cafe's manager had just given kind of a basic, thanks, come again, I think that, ultimately to the reader, it's going to read like, you aren't important enough to warrant a personal response. So it can actually give a bad vibe to somebody who just read a good review if your response to it isn't adequately engaged. It's going to give just a negative feeling to the whole experience, and it can even appear disrespectful.
Yeah, it makes it feel like you're just another number.
Yeah, so really what it comes down to is you always want to make sure you put in more effort than your customer, and you want to aim to build strong, lasting relationships.
One of the things we say on our sales floor is we say treat every customer like they're your grandma.
Yes.
Right? I mean, even if grandma's like, oh, honey, you were so nice, you're going to be like, you may be thinking in the back head, you're like, oh my gosh, she is rambling forever. Like, you're still going to be like, Grandma, thank you so much for coming to my whatever. You're going to be respectful and nice, and you might even say something a little funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunately, reviews are not always positive, and ignoring a negative review might be tempting, but it can be so damaging to do so. So we included again in the show notes another example of a business owner that really they handled this negative review so perfectly. I was kind of amazed that we tracked it down, but it was the review itself is rather long, so I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but it was a review for a restaurant that basically the reviewer said, we've had great experiences in all these other, sister locations to this brand, but here's exactly what happened wrong. And item by item, listed out, the vegetables were too squishy, the tea was cold, the service was inattentive, and the manager of the location, really processed that review, responded to it with detail and with a really great amount of hey, it's not defensive, but it basically is man, I'm super sorry that you had this experience, and really appreciate you taking the time to let us know what happened, and let me go through and kind of talk about what experience you had. And without being defensive, without being argumentative or given well, you obviously asked for those vegetables to be overcooked or they wouldn't have been, it's or 800 other customers liked them, so why didn't you? I mean, there's none of that in this review response at all. So we highlight a few key points really to what made it exceptional. It non-defensively responds to the issues, accepts responsibility where appropriate, graciously.
Yeah. So the worst thing you can do is respond with anger and defensiveness and aggression. And really, this is one of the reasons why we often tell clients they should outsource this particular part of the job. Because if you are the manager of a store and somebody comes in and complains either about you or the staff that you work with every day, it's really difficult to turn your ego off and actually hear what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Because you really work hard every day, and when somebody complains, you're like, you son of a gun, and it's hard not to want to just punch them in the face
or be defensive of again with the whole experience of the Irish bar on St. Patrick's Day. Can you imagine that manager who gets that review and he's like, really it was flippin' St. Patrick's Day? And yet if you respond that way, instead of being like, we'd really love to have you come in on any other day of the year, and you're right, this doesn't present our location in the best. There's absolutely, we found there's no way for us to staff up enough, and we, really hope you give us the opportunity to show you how great we are any other day of the year. You know what I mean? That response basically gives so much more value than the how much of an idiot are you response you really want to give. And so it's hard to step back. I think unless you're really that extraordinary of a person that can take a breath and read that review and try and see the truth of it, or try and really be able to objectively view that customer's experience and be like, okay, so St. Patrick's Day, I get it. There's probably their only experience with an Irish bar. And so, okay, it's going to be tough to do that for your own business. Yeah. So be realistic about your abilities to do that.
So first thing you want to do if you get a bad review is you want to acknowledge how the reviewer feels. Mm-hmm. Remember that they're feeling a certain frustration or anger or whatever it is, and you want to acknowledge that. You don't want to ignore it, because even if you're like, you have no right to be angry, they still are. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to be the old man yelling at the clouds going, you shouldn't be there. It is.
Yeah.
So just acknowledge that it's there. and saying something like, I'm sorry that you feel upset. I'm sorry that you're angry. I'm sorry that you're frustrated. All of that is fine. You're just acknowledging it. You're not saying that you're not being, it was all our fault. You're just saying, hey, dude, that sucks. I'm sorry that you're so frustrated. That's terrible. And that is at least some genuine acknowledgement of their feelings.
And it shows that you recognize and read and heard them. Most people ultimately, when they're doing this, want to be heard, either by you or by other people. And so show that you heard them.
Yeah.
So the example that we gave above, one of the other reasons that I liked it was the owner also addressed each issue. So they didn't just kind of give a blanket, oh gosh, that sucks that you had a bad food experience. And so, the customer took the time to really give a ton of detail. And like we mentioned before, make sure you take least as much effort as your customer. The respondent in this review that we posted really does go through line by line and thoughtfully and appropriately responds. They inform the customer of the work that they're going to be doing or that is currently being done to improve the customer experience so that the next customer doesn't have the same experience. And again, this is speaking to the rest of the internet that's reading this review. If you just said, oh gosh, that sucks, and it was a one-off. Instead, this responder actually said, let's say, for example, there's some comment about the fish, and they said, this time of season, it's really hard for us to locate a consistent fish supplier, and we've tried a few different ones, and so on the night you were out, it was one of the previous fish suppliers, and so we've tried a new one that we really think has made some improvements, and we hope you'll give us a chance to try it out again. And it invites the customer ultimately to reach out to them. It gives them some suggested forms of action. So we also put together a bit of a template if you're not sure how to respond to negative reviews, with a few key points to keep in mind.
So first thing you want to do is thank the customer for reviewing you. Thank them for their feedback. Remember, it's still taking their time and energy to do it. And even if it's a negative review, you want to say, hey, thanks for at least reviewing us. How many customers are you going to see this year that aren't going to tell you squat, and they're just going to disappear into the ether? You know what I mean? I was going to say a spoiler from a movie, but I won't talk about it.
No.
I'm not talking about spoilers here. But ultimately, most customers aren't going to give you any feedback at all. They're going to sit there and silently brood over whatever it is that happened and never tell you what was wrong. But everyone else in the world will know when they tell them. They may not even write a review. So if they wrote a review and they took their time, at least thank them for that. That's something you want to reward.
Yeah, a negative review can feel like a punishment, but if you consider the alternative, it really isn't, because never knowing what went wrong with that customer, or potentially having that situation continue to happen to future customers, is far worse than having this one negative review that gives you the opportunity to take action and address it.
Yeah. So the next part you want to do is, once you've thanked them, the next part you want to do is agree with the truth. Now, in every review, even if they're slamming you, like you're a big scam and I bought this gadget from you and 2 days later it broke.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that they're saying, there are parts of that are totally true and verifiable. For example, in that one scenario I just gave you where this is a scam, I bought this item and 2 days later it broke. What is the truth of that statement? What can you verify? That they bought an item. So that's where you start at your common ground. Thank you very much for telling me about your experience. I'm really sorry to hear how frustrated you were. Boom, I see that you purchased this item, right there. You're agreeing with the truth. The rest of it is kind of opinion. That really sucks that if you purchased an item from me and 2 days later it broke, I would really be frustrated too. Right now you're on their side and they're like, oh, okay, this is cool, right? So you agree with the truth, find out whatever's true, and whatever is opinion, you align yourself with them. If this happened to me, I would also feel this same way. Because wouldn't you, if you bought an item from Amazon and 2 days later it broke, you'd be like, dang it, that sucks.
Yeah.
So,
but you don't want to argue over opinions. Speaking of opinions, so that statement about your company being called a scam, that's not going to make anything more valuable for you to address that opinion and to try to fight one way or the other about it. Just that's the one part of that review you should not focus on.
Yeah. just disregard that part. So the next thing you want to do is give them a goal, give them something to do. If a customer is left with just their frustration and anger and that's it, they're going to continue to see. They may continue to go on other platforms and write more bad reviews, even if you've responded. So you want to give them something to do, something that can facilitate fixing their problem. Either give me a call at this number, or tell them to send the item back and these are the instructions, or whatever. You want to give them something to do. But the one thing you don't want to do is offer them a refund or a discount in your review. And the
Yeah.
reason why, we've done this in the past where we thought we were being good, all of a sudden you get a rash of bad reviews because you've got some people out there that are less than honest and they want to get a discount or they want to get something free. So they write a bad review and all of a sudden now you're giving away free stuff to a bunch of people who are complaining. You're actually rewarding all of this bad behavior.
Yeah. And so the other thing that, again, going back to this example review that we gave, they really gave some very defined suggestions for if this ever happens again, or you are ever unhappy with the food that you receive, please let us know. Then we will happily, replace that item, or we can fix this, or you can ask for this specific kind of sauce to give this more flavor, so they really give some defined suggestions, not just for the customer that had the bad experience, but really letting future customers know if you have a bad experience, not only do we want to know it at the time of, there are things we can do to fix it right then and there.
So you want to stay on top of your online reputation.
Yes.
So don't delay. Like if something comes in, a good or bad review, you want to immediately respond to it. So that way it shows that you're proactive.
Yes, and if you don't have time to monitor multiple review sites every day, because, who does, set up a Google alert for your business and your product names, not just your business, so that when they show up in reviews online, you'll get some sort of an alert that lets you know in a time frame that allows you to respond, ideally within 24 to 48 hours.
And address legitimate customer concerns, because obviously you don't want to let any of that stuff go. And any negative review is an opportunity to fix a problem before they tank your business. And remember, I, for example, will look at nothing but negative reviews before making a purchase decision. And if I see how the customer is being handled in those reviews is positive and that they're working proactively to fix it, that's going to give me more incentive to purchase from a company than all these people that are complaining about this thing and then the company's just ignoring them.
That's right. So reviews can make a huge impact in today's digitally connected marketplace. Not only can they increase traffic to your store or website, they can lead to more exposure from local search.
But you can't just sit back and wait and hope that positive reviews will come flying in.
Nope. You have to actively pursue positive reviews with a few subtle tricks to encourage happy customers to tell the world while you get the chance to resolve the bad experiences more privately.
So that's it for today. Be sure to head over to growthmarketeracademy.com to check out the show notes and the links to the resources we talked about today.
And if you just listened through our whole podcast about getting online reviews, for goodness sake, rate this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on.
Yeah, for real. Leave us a review.
For those of you keeping up with us, which hopefully you all are, but, for those of us that are paying attention to what's coming up next week's episode is going to be the first of a series, a short series, that's going to cover how you can use email to generate more sales from your e-commerce site.
Hey, we already talked about this. Nobody uses email, but old people use email.
Well, then you better plan to tune in because you are super wrong.
I'm also very old.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan Eldridge.
I'm Andrea Eldridge.
And thanks for listening to Growth Marketer Academy.
This has been Growth Marketer Academy with Ryan and Andrea Eldridge.